Hello, this is episode 7. During this episode, we're going to go over making the doors for the lanterns, which you see here. We're going to go over making the clasps, which actually close the doors. And there's two types. I refer to this as the pigtail because in the olden days pigs always seem to have curly tails, and that's curly. This is really fairly simple to make. And I call this the hairpin only because when you first start to form it, it looks like a regular hairpin. Now on some of these lanterns, like this one, I've actually put doors on there so that the glass can slide up from the bottom, and the glass would slide up from the bottom of both of these. Other lanterns, it's only practical to put the glass from the inside. I've already set my bar folder to 1/2 inch, and we'll bend the first part of the channel up 1/2 inch. I will use my square to ensure that I achieve this. There is quite a bit of spring back, so that has to be taken into consideration. After a while, you can kind of do this by eyeball, is to put in the next bend to form the channel. As you can see right now, we have a right angle, and I'm marking it with my scribe. So the depth of the channel would be, or the width of the channel would be approximately the width of a piece of glass, and it would be double strength glass. Now, this is a little bit of adjustment. So as I bring this up and bring it down, you can see I don't have a complete channel, and the problem is, of course, this machine is not designed really for this application. It's designed to make a fold, but you can't make two folds the dimension of the door. And I would put the channel in like this, but I need to flatten it down because, as I told you, I couldn't do it completely in the machine. Okay. I'll continue on. As you can see, if you look at this carefully, you can see how the little bubble of where it's actually flattening it down. There's really no other way of doing that with the equipment that I have. Now, if you had a press brake, which I don't, then you could have a special die that would actually do this, and it would do it perfect. But that's a fairly expensive piece of equipment. The front has a folded hemmed edge, so obviously it will protect your hands, and the back is about a 1/16 of an inch. As you can see, about a 1/16 of an inch less than the front, so when you look at the glass you don't see the back. And the second one is a turn tin door, and I'll show you how you do it. I use a template which actually slides in, and actually when I put it together I slid it out, and that results in a door, and this is upside down. The closed channel goes in the top that is like this and would open either left or right. So to give you a close-up, here's the solder joint, here's the solder joint, here's the top channel, and then the bottom is just a flat piece so the glass can slide up. And the glass would help add rigidity to this. So now I'm going to show you how to make the closure device for the door. And this is attached with the hinges that we have previously made, two on the top and one on the bottom. And that's made out of brass because I have some bright tin or tin plate, zinc, and so forth. I'm going to make this closure out of 304 stainless steel. Stainless steel, as you may know, is one of these materials that's really very, very tough. So again, to make that hairpin turn, you need to heat it at the center point to where it starts turning cherry red, and at that point then it really is quite flexible. You may not be able to see this very well, but it is cherry red, and I'll heat it up a little bit more. And on this 1/4 inch plate, I just take this and bend it into a hairpin. Now that's about as tight as you can get it in this. So then I take the next step and I put it in my trusty old machinist vise. Put this in this way and squeeze it until it closes. It's not quite perfect, so I'll put it in without the spacer in it and just bring it to the closure point, as you can see right here. And I think I probably need to heat it up a tap more. Okay, what you see is sometimes it has a tendency to twist as it's currently done. Then I'll take it and put it in the vise again. Give me a little flexibility to pull the twist out. I'll put a couple of shims in, or excuse me, wedges. Then I'll heat it again. Putting that one down. Heat this one and bend that one down. And there you have it. So it needs to be touched up a little bit. No big deal. I'll do it here. I'll squeeze it till everything is perfect, and I'm pretty much done. Now, in some cases, on a lot of older lanterns, I've seen a round loop in lieu of that, obviously around. I am now going to start the process of making hinges. What I do when I make hinges, I try to mass assemble them because every lantern would have at least 9 hinges, but because of the way they're manufactured and because of the way they have to be bent to install, they're all custom fitted. So some of them are just not going to work, so you end up scrapping about 20%. What I do, as you can see on this piece, is I pre-cut all the stock to 1-inch segments. This is so that I can mass produce them, and I've done this with all the different types of tin that are involved in this Dutch colonial lantern build-out. Now, I use the bar folder to fold them up into what I'll call an open round hem, a hem that we would normally use to put a wired edge in, and I went over that. So here it's bent up, and you can see that it's got kind of an opening for the wired edges. So I will do that with the rest of the material. Now, this particular piece of equipment is a wiring machine. The wheel on here is for 1/8-inch wire, and that's normally what I use for my rod between the hinges. And what this does is it really establishes that nice round bottom set. So set it through, just run it through once. And as you can see, if you look at it closely, it's a little closer to be rounded at the bottom. Now we'll change this machine out to a set down machine, and this will actually set down the joint. So to get the right configuration, I put a piece of 1/8-inch rod I set the cutting wheel right on the edge of the tin, and then I slowly work its way through and check it periodically to make sure everything is going correctly. And when I get done, you can see that we have individually closed hinges. This rod should slide out. If you look at the end, it's a little bit oblong. It's a function of the material you're using. If you look at this one, it's a little bit less oblong. As you recall, we manufactured the hinges, and I have cut them apart, and I have tinned the back of them. And now I'll go over on how to place them on a particular lantern. Basically, the first thing I do is I center the door in the opening to make sure that it fits, make sure that it's not upside down, and then I take, and I've already done this with these I bend them as hinges, and I'll show you how to do that, and then I clamp them in place, and then I solder them in place. So let me solder the first few in place, just so that I can move the clamp position. 212 configuration for the hinges, and I use obviously two sets, one at the bottom and one at the top. Okay, so now that these are soldered in place, I'll take off my clamps. So these are running a little bit wild, in other words, they're long. So I'll take and I'll mark them with my scribe. Okay, so I'll take them up, take my tin snips, and cut them to size. So that's the first one. You can see there's one, there's two, and here's the third one. Okay, so let me check to make sure we're good on the spacing. So this is 1 3/4 inches, and it can come down just a little bit. And put that one there, and this one here. So okay, so this one here, now that I'm looking at it, needs to be redone. Okay, so let me show you how we got messed up. Okay, so I take a pair of pliers and I hold it and I apply pressure. And as you can see, I went and created a bend. Let me put it on here and see how it looks. Still too much, and this is always the fun of this. You end up doing some fiddling around with it, as I say. Okay, so I took some of the bend out. Let's see how it fits. Okay, it seems to fit quite a bit better. The next thing to do is put the closure clip, or the clip to close and open the unit. I have two types. I have what I'll call a hairpin, and this is made out of stainless steel. And I have the simple round loop, which is tinned brass. Obviously, it's much easier to use a stainless steel because tinning a piece of brass is time-consuming and difficult. So the first thing I do is I find the center point of the lantern. It's obviously 12 inches, so the center point is 6. and I just mark it. Then I have to put I use 3 clamps in this operation, and two of them are attached to the body so we don't lose the mechanism. As you can see, again, I bent it, and I'll put that about here. Check it out. It's a little bit overbent. Getting a little too zealous here. I'll bend it a little bit. Okay, so that looks fine. I'll take and clamp it in position. On episode 8, we will go over making the grid, which you see here, for the lanterns. I don't put grids on all the lanterns. They're actually quite time consuming, but they actually add another class of decorativeness to the lanterns. We'll go over making the handles and making the hold downs for the handles. So this should be a fairly interesting segment, and when we make the handles, I'll go into what I refer to as counterintuitive bending, which should be interesting for you all. Also, during episode 8, we'll go into the feet that go on the bottom of these, as well as the glass clips that would hold the glass in place and the mirrors in place. So that really covers episode 8.